Think with the doctor. Yes, he's got it. He carries down. Way rock the baby in his paper.
Until morning. Ewing.
Oh, wow. Oh, he's going to try to get one more shot off the last push. The ball's there. How about that? Steps over Toronto. He thought about three. He'll put up a three.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Boom Broadcasting presents 3 from D. I'm your host, Jason Colenso. Welcome to the show, guys. Happy Monday. Here we are, the Final Four. We finally got our last four into the playoffs here. So I know we coming out of the weekend has been very exciting. Thank you guys very much for joining me here. I appreciate you showing up. If this is your first time, this is 3 from Deep. I'm Jason Colenso, your host. If you haven't done so yet, guys, like and subscribe. Jump on the Boom Broadcasting bandwagon, man. We got a lot of great content here, and I appreciate you being here today because we got a good show, man. We have the Final Four. It's the final countdown. Here we go, guys. This is what we've been waiting for, and I think we're going to have ourselves a fresh new champion, too, so this is also exciting. But I cannot do this alone. I had to bring someone on here with me today to talk about this because I'm super excited about the Final Four we got here. This is somebody who is a great supporter of my show, a great supporter of Boom Broadcasting. He's been on here before. I got to bring him on, Mr. Cody Johnson from Drew Code Sports Talk. Welcome to the show, Cody. Thank you very much for being here today.
What's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
Oh, living life, man. Loving it. I'm feeling good. My Knicks are still live in the playoffs, so everything is gravy right now.
Oh, I can only imagine. And, you know, yesterday in our group chat, you're feeling a little froggy. So I'm curious if that same Jason is going to be out tonight. And I don't know, dude, did you see any of those clips of New York City just absolutely rioting from that Game 6 victory? Like flooding the streets, climbing on every building that they can get their hands on. Wild scene.
Just imagine if they would have lost. I think some buildings would have came down, you know, but that's New York City. Just imagine if they actually win the championship, you know, which they haven't done in almost over 50 years. So that's just a little precursor to the party. If they can actually make it to the finals. So
it's a good thing you don't reside there anymore, Jason. That's
I would be down there. Now I'm not climbing any poles. Those guys, I don't know. I do not want to fall out of a light pole. I know some people have gotten hurt. So please, guys, party responsibly. Go out there and have fun. Lose your voice. You know,
but don't lose your life.
Don't destruct, you know, no destruction. Don't burn anything down. Excuse me. Just, you know, have fun responsibly, man. But man, what are your thoughts so far, man? What are you thinking of the playoffs? Here we are, the Final Four. You have 4 mega stars in the league who have never won a chip before, now sitting in front of us. What are your initial thoughts now that you kind of can digest the Final Four?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just complete shock. The only team that has made it that a lot of people probably anticipated was the Thunder. But everybody else from the Timberwolves, everybody else from the Pacers, especially, I think the Pacers have been one of those teams that were slept on that people did not see climbing up as fast as they did. And of course, your Knicks. I think there's a lot of hope for the Knicks, especially they made a lot of acquisitions this past offseason, and it looks like it's paying off. During the regular season, you guys couldn't win against a potential playoff team, and here you guys have cleaned out 2 playoff teams right now as you guys have the opportunity in the conference finals. So if anything, it's very nostalgic, especially the Knicks and Pacers, which we'll talk about shortly. But I think it's just been one of these playoff series that did not expect it coming, did not expect my Lakers to go in the first round, did not expect the Nuggets to go 7 games with the Thunder, which, you know, that was a hard fought game. And unfortunately it was a blowout towards the end of it. And then your Knicks just absolutely waxing the Boston Celtics in their Game 6 in New York. That was a sight to behold as well. So these playoffs have been extremely entertaining this season.
It has been a lot of fun. And yes, for me, it has been very nostalgic. And we'll jump right into that first matchup here because I got to talk about, my New York Knicks going against the Indiana Pacers. Because, see, I've been around a decent amount of years here. So I remember those early 90s matchups with Reggie Miller, the 1994, the Miller choke sign with, with Spike Lee. I remember 1995, the 9 points, 8 points in 9 seconds where he stole the ball. And it just, so I have been there. I have been emotionally invested in a lot of those games. And the Knicks and Pacers since 1993, they've had a lot of great series, but the Pacers have gotten the best of the Knicks the last three, 2000, 2013, and then last year, 2024. So the Pacers have ruined the Knicks season. This season, a little bit different. Hopefully Brunson stays healthy because remember last year, Julius Randle got hurt. OG Anunoby got hurt. Brunson went out, I think, but broke his hand or fractured his hand. So little different circumstances this year. So my first question for you is we'll start with that Pacers side. Pacers have been sitting since Tuesday, which is going to be a little over a week. Are you for rest or do you like momentum? Is this rest a little too much for the Pacers? Are they going to come out rusty or do you think that's not going to matter?
I think it depends on who the home game is. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Knicks are the home team to start the series, and you'll have to check. Okay, so I think this is kind of a unique circumstance because I actually think the rest will help the Pacers, but in the sense of like their shooting will be there. But I think the Knicks will probably claim game one because it is going to be in New York. That crowd, we thought game 6 was going to be loud. Game 1 in the Western Conference Finals. First time, I think, in like 25 years is going to be electric. And not only that, but there is enough rest in between game 6 to game 1 where I think the Knicks will come out with some energy. I think Jalen Brunson's going to put his stamp on the game. And this is where I think Thibodeau's defense, thankfully, throughout the latter part of the season, he didn't play his guys 50-plus minutes a game. I think because he tapered it back a little bit. I think some of the guys like Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, they're going to have a lot more in the tank. And Cat's going to have his hands full with Miles Turner for sure. But I think with enough rest, I think, Cat will be able to hold his own. So I'm very curious if I had to say what game one's going to determine. I think it's the momentum for the Knicks is going to take it for me. But normally, though, for a team like the Pacers, rest as a shooting team is the best recipe for success. So that's the only thing about the Knicks I'd be concerned with is the ample rest that the Pacers are going to have going into New York.
And I'm a little bit opposite. For me, when you get a shooting team, momentum to me is everything. You go out there and you start hitting shots, you start rolling. It just the basket gets wider and wider. When you sit for a long time, you're doing practices, but practices aren't game speed. And then you go out there and you're going to be in a raucous crowd. It's going to be a defensive battle because, again, the New York Knicks like to be physical. So I think this is probably going to be the most physical team that the Indiana Pacers have faced. So I'm worried if I'm the Pacers because, yes, they both have great defense, but offensively with that shooting stroke, I think sitting a little bit may weigh on them. So I'm interested to see how this game starts out, and I'm interested to see how the Pacers deal with that rust.
What I would say to what the Knicks need to watch out for is they actually might come into this even more amped up than they were in game 6, which means they might actually commit a lot of early fouls that might put them in trouble because they are a physical team. And I wouldn't be surprised if the refs, not that they're going to let it be very physical, but I think they're going to let some calls go. But I do think that they will exercise control when needed because the Knicks are going to have a lot of emotions that they're trying to get through about where they're at, trying to win one in New York. And I think the Pacers with Rick Carlisle, he's really good about getting his guys centered and prepared because they have just came from hostile environments in Cleveland, and I'm forgetting the series before who they played in Milwaukee. A lot of hostile environments. Rick Carlisle has got them focused, and especially the Pacers in game 1 and 2 against the Cavs. They went into Cleveland and silenced them in 2 straight games. So I think the one thing about the Knicks I would want them to be is aggressive, but also don't be surprised if the refs are starting to control the fouls, and where the Knicks will falter in game one is if they let the physicality take over to where they're now just committing fouls to commit fouls. And
Right.
it gets Cat into trouble. It gets Mikal Bridges in trouble, because Mikal Bridges is going to be very important for his work that he's going to do on Tyrese Halliburton. Like, he's going to be needed on the floor. And if he's in foul trouble for ticky-tack fouls, the Pacers are going to have the advantage, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what makes me nervous about this too. Is you talk about the emotion of the game. This is going to be a very red alert, high emotional. You're going to have Spike Lee down there. You're going to have Reggie Miller's going to walk in the building. You're going to have 20, 30 years of just the history of these two teams come to fruition that first game. So I know it's going to be big. Yes, Karl Anthony Towns, even Jalen Brunson, watch the ticky-tack fouls. And that's the tough part, is they've come out of physical series. That Detroit Pistons series was super physical, very 90s, putting hand checks, even though they don't allow a lot of hand check no more. So that very physical series. Playing against Boston, physical series, going against the defending champs. So the Knicks emotionally have been tested, but they do have to watch foul trouble, because Karl Anthony Towns has been in foul trouble. The game the Knicks lost, Jalen Brunson was in foul trouble, and they cannot afford to lose those two guys. That's the two most important people on the court for the New York Knicks are going to be Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. This is going to be that kind of series where they need them. But Pacers, that's what leads into my other question here is, Pacers played the Cavs. They played the Bucks. Knicks played Detroit, played Boston. Which team came off their last two series wins? Who's more prepared for this series for who they just beat? Do the Pacers beating the number one team, beating Giannis and the Bucks? Did that give them more oomph compared to the Knicks beating the Pistons and Boston? Does any of that matter, or is this like it doesn't matter? These two teams are just going to fight each other out.
Well, I think
to the other.
Yeah, I think the Pacers have found themselves in a bit of luck, and I'm not trying to say that you luck up and win, 5 games in a series. I mean, you don't get lucky in that. You're a good basketball team, so you're coached by a Hall of Famer for sure. So I do want to give the Pacers respect. They have earned their playoff spot. Them being in the Eastern Conference Finals is not to say that they don't belong there. But I think what my point with the Pacers is the two teams that they played, Milwaukee, obviously didn't have a healthy Dame Lillard. That team, just in general, the Milwaukee Bucks, have a lot to look at themselves in the mirror. And there's a big question if Giannis is even going to be on that team come the next season. So you already had that team kind of going in the playoffs with turmoil before they tipped the ball off. And then you go over into the Cavs. The Cavs started off injured already with Darius Garland out. There was a bit where Donovan Mitchell, he wasn't a full go. You had DeAndre Hunter, who wasn't a full go as well. So the Cavs, I think towards like the latter part of their series in games 4 and 5, they finally were somewhat healthy, but the Pacers already taken the first 2 games. They kind of let game 3 go. They really put it on them on game 4. Game 5, it was just, we're just put him to bed. So the Pacers, in my opinion, have run across a lot of luck in terms of like the teams have not been fully healthy, and the Pacers just were hot at the right time. They just executed the game plan, great coach, great players, great execution of plays, and they were able to advance. The Knicks, though, have fought tooth and nail every single series. I think the Pistons series was pushed to 6 or 7. I think it was 6, if I'm not mistaken.
6,
and then they just pushed 6 against the defending NBA champion. So I'm going to say the Knicks are more prepared from the series that they just played, because they played the defending champions. And in fact, they played them, I wouldn't say 100% healthy, because of course Porzingis was a little off and on the court, but they played Boston as healthy as they were going to be at that moment. And other than one role player kind of being in and out, they played Boston as well as they could and took the first 2 games on them, being down by 20 points in both of those games. And it wasn't until game 4, when Jason Tatum obviously unfortunately ruptured his Achilles and then he was out. But the Knicks still played hard in that entire series, where there wasn't really like, Jaylen Brown didn't miss any time. Tatum didn't miss any time. Horford didn't miss any time. So again, the Celtics were pretty much whole, but the Knicks just had to, like, basically game 5 and 6 was when they finally put it to bed. Now, game 5, they got ran out the gym, but that was expected because it's going back to Boston. But in New York, they were ready to put the Celtics to bed. They did not give them any airway, no space to make their shots. They put them to bed. So I think, in my opinion, the Knicks are more poised for future success, maybe getting to the finals, because I feel like they've been tested more round 1, the semifinals, and now this series will be a difficult one. But I think the Pacers' road to get to the Eastern Conference Finals has been easier, in my opinion, because of the teams that they went in facing were already injured. Whereas essentially the Knicks have played everyone almost fully healthy, with the exception of game 4 with Boston.
The biggest thing for me is both of these teams had to get through the East. And again, the East is not as deep as the West. We all kind of say that and know that a little bit, the gauntlet that is the West. But that's my biggest concern as a Knicks fan, is the Pacers, were they truly tested? They played in a injured Cavs team. They played Giannis and a bunch of stand-ins. But their pace of play, and that's the biggest thing that concerns me from the New York Knicks perspective, man, they are so fast. And that's the type of team with the Knicks, that's the type of team you can't go down 10, 15 points against the Pacers because you're not fast enough to catch up. And I don't think their defense is solid enough to really completely slow them down. So this is going to be a hard-fought series, but I think this is going to control the Pacers' pace of play is going to be key for the New York Knicks to pull victories out of the hat here. They cannot go down double-digit points against this team. They can't run that fast. You can't play at the Pacers' pace, because by the third quarter, you're going to be out of gas because you're not used to it. You need to grind a game out. New York Knicks shoot a high free throw percentage. So slow the game down, get the Pacers in foul trouble. That's going to ultimately help the Knicks. But we have some stars on these teams. Of course, Jalen Brunson, my crack MVP. I know we got Joker. I know we got SGA. But if you talk about important player to their team and what they've done to lift a team, Jalen Brunson, and what he has done to that New York Knicks team and organization over the last couple of years has been outstanding for what he has been able to do. He has kind of created his own aura and legacy there, which is phenomenal. I appreciate him doing that. Of course, Captain Clutch. But we have Captain Clutch versus Mr. Overrated. So those are the two big stars right now. So we got Brunson, we got Halliburton. So we all know that. We kind of know a lot of our role players, too, that we're going to have, too. But who is going to have to step up for their team and be the unsung hero? Give me one from each team, Pacers, Knicks. Who is the one guy from each team that is going to have to step up to get their team willed to victory?
So for the Pacers, I'm leaning on two different players for this, but Pascal Siakam is what I think about as being that second scorer, and honestly, the primary scorer for being able to create his own shot that Halliburton can rely on. I think, Pascal Siakam is somebody that needs to be incorporated quickly, but that is honestly low-hanging fruit. The one guy who I think that the Pacers really need to get involved is Miles Turner, because he is a big man that can get the rebounds. He can stretch the floor where he's hanging out at 3, and he can hit clutch threes. And he's a guy that can put it on the floor and go straight to the basket. And that's a guy that's at 7 foot, which is what Cat can do. I would argue, though, Cat's low post game is not as good as Miles Turner. Miles Turner's low post game is superior. So Cat's defense is going to have to come into play. And this is what makes it difficult for the Knicks. The Knicks are going to have to sacrifice Cat's offense, so that way he's focused on defense to even go against Miles Turner, in my opinion. So for the Pacers, Miles Turner is the X factor, the guy that they really need to get incorporated to help Tyrese Halliburton. For the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, it's going to be Mikal Bridges and his defense, because Mikal Bridges was an X factor to going against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And he was the guy that was really able to keep those two in check when he was called upon them. And not only
Right.
that, the Knicks spent 5 picks to acquire him. This is where he needs to make his money and being a defensive specialist, because he'll get his. He's a good scorer. He's a guy that can facilitate a little bit, but defense is his primary thing. So the Knicks are going to really have to get Mikal Bridges and his defense on Tyrese Halliburton to get him uncomfortable. So that way he's not able to make these rainbow 3-pointers. Or the one scary thing about Tyrese Halliburton is he's a taller version, in my opinion, than Steph Curry, because he will pull it up from the parking lot, or he has no problem taking you to the basket. And he's like 5 inches taller than Stephen Curry. So you got a guy that's like 6'6", 6'7", going to the rack, but he handles the ball just like Steph Curry, and he can shoot, in my opinion, almost as well as Steph Curry. But the Knicks are going to really need Mikal Bridges to put the best defensive performance of his career on Tyrese Halliburton, so that way they keep him in check. And you can let Pascal Siakam try to be superhero. You can even let Miles Turner look like he's Superman. But realistically, in the Cavs series and even in the Milwaukee series, it was Tyrese Halliburton who was the man. He was the guy. And Mikal Bridges, this is his time to shine, to shut that down.
Right. And I can agree with that. I mean, 2 huge steals in that Boston series. He kind of, excuse me, he kind of didn't show up till the fourth quarter in a few games. And I think that's what's key is he needs to start early.
Mm-hmm.
This team, again, you can't sleep on the Pacers and try to catch up in the third and fourth quarters. They're going to start fast out the gate. You got to kind of start with them. My 2, a little bit different. Benedict Matheson. Or Matherin, excuse me. I got to say his name right. Benedict Matherin, I think, is going to be crucial for the Indiana Pacers. So you talk about a third type scorer, someone defensively, someone also that's a little bit chippy that you can kind of throw out there as, hey, I need you to go out there and ruffle Brunson's feathers. I need you to go out there and ruffle somebody's feathers. Normally averages about 16 points a game. He's been crucial in a couple of games here because Pascal Siakam's going to get his. He's been to the championship before, one in Toronto, so he knows these high-pressure games. Tyrese Halliburton, sometimes he can kind of shoot himself out of a game. So, he has laid some eggs before, and he's had a few so-so games in these playoffs. So they're going to need another scorer. They're going to need another guy to get you 15 to 20 points to kind of make up for that. And I think Benedict's going to be that guy that Indiana is really going to need to count on to add that extra scoring, especially if they're down. And for me, for the New York Knicks, Mitchell Robinson. Boston did the hack of Robinson there throughout this series. He made some free throws, which the crowd was behind him. It was almost like you could fill Madison Square Garden, like willing him to make free throws. I wonder if the Pacers are going to do the Hacker Robinson kind of thing with him, but not only him being out there making free throws, but you talked about it before, being in the low post. See, because Karl-Anthony Towns, he likes to shoot the outside shot too much. I hate that. I hate when 7-foot guys, and tall guys just kind of hang out on the outside and chuck up threes.
Yeah.
At low post, back your guy up to the rim, dunk it and one, get the old school 3. But you talked about Miles Turner. Karl-Anthony Towns is going to need help down there. And I think Mitchell Robinson being taller, being a rim protector, they're going to really need his defense and his rim protection because, man, those Indiana Pacers, not only are they fast, but they're super tall.
Yeah.
And super long. So they're going to need tall bodies down low. So Mitchell Robinson staying out of foul trouble, but protecting the rim and getting in guys' way. Make them try to shoot themselves out of the game. And that's what won games for you against Boston is Boston shot themselves out of 3 of those 5 games there. I mean, they looked terrible with the shooting percentage. They were under 25% from 3. So get the ball from being down low, protect the rim, make Indiana try to shoot themselves in because that's going to be tough to do in the Garden with everything going on. So those are my 2 is Mitchell Robinson and Benedict Matherin. But ultimately, the main question is, Cody, who do you see winning this series?
Man, this is a tough one because these guys kind of counter each other with with respectively their games, whether it's offense or defensively. You were just mentioning how Boston kind of shot themselves out of games, and so you anticipate the Pacers. My argument to why I don't think the Pacers will do that is because Coach Rick Carlisle is still a guy that, yeah, he respects analytics, but he also knows that the game of basketball, you need to put the ball in the bucket. That's the ultimate game of it. And so he really empowers his guy that, look, if it's not there at the 3, go to the rack, use your mid-range game, which is why I'm a little nervous for the Knicks when it comes to this, because unlike Boston lives and die by the 3. They're not trying to put it on the floor and trying to get inside the 3-point line. They're shooting exclusively threes, where the Pacers, they're shooting threes and hitting them at a large clip, but they have no problem going to the rack. They have no problem pulling up a mid-range. They understand that in the playoffs, mid-range is what separates the good teams from the great teams. Right. So this is where the Knicks and that bully defense, they're going to have to really worry about when they draw them off that 3-point line and bring them inside, can they still stay connected and not blow any coverages? You know, if you're going to trap somebody, can you make sure you stay put on your assignments? So I think that's one of the things the Knicks have to worry about. But I think the Knicks have too much offensive power from other players. I feel like you got guys like OG Anunoby, you got guys like Mikal Bridges, you got guys like Brunson, Josh Hart. I don't even know all the bench players, and I know that there are McBride. There's another player that can get some off the bench. I just feel like the Pacers don't have as much of a deep bench as the Knicks do, and I think the Knicks defense will wear down the Pacers, because I can make the argument right now that the Knicks are going to be the most physical team the Pacers have seen all postseason. And I think that's going to wear out the Pacers. I would not be surprised by game 5 and 6. We see the Pacers start legging it out a little bit, not because they're exhausted, but because they're bruised. They're beaten up. And the Knicks, they just went through a bruiser in Detroit. They went through a bruiser in Boston. And I think that the Knicks kind of are calloused in that, where they are ready for that type of brunt, physicality. And I don't know if the Pacers are, respectively. So I'm going to say Knicks in 7. It's going to take all 7 games. And I think it's going to take a couple of home losses from the Pacers. And I can see a Garden loss somewhere along the way as well. But I say Knicks in 7. And I think they're going to be in their first NBA Finals in 25 years. And that'd be my prediction.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because we're going to keep you on the show now, because I was hovering around the click because I saw you floating towards that Pacers side. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, this is the New York Knicks' biggest opportunity to make the finals in the past 25 years. This team, the way it's constructed, Jalen Brunson, MVP performance, Karl Anthony Towns, this is why we traded for you. This is the big moment. This is the series. I got Knicks in 6 just because they won in 6 series 1, 1 in 6 series 2. So we're going to go Knicks in 6 again. Excuse me. I was just glad to see Jalen Brunson, knock on wood, come out of both of these series healthy and playing well.
Yeah.
I know he got kind of tweaked his injury there in Detroit, and I was a little worried about him coming out of that series healthy, because, of course, he ended the season there kind of injured and coming back with that ankle. So I'm curious to see how he's going to handle that against the Pacers, because of the speed of the game is going to be. And that's what killed us last year, is we lost OG, we lost Jalen Brunson. So knock on wood, as long as Jalen Brunson is out there facilitating and being the MVP of that team, I think the Knicks are going to take care of them. Indiana, I think they're a phenomenal team. They were a great story. They're a giant killer. They knocked a 60-win team off the block, which is fantastic. So great season, but I don't think they have enough. They were a 6 seed, it was a 4 seed for a reason. So they were behind the Knicks. The Knicks in the regular season beat them 2 out of 3 times. So we weren't able to beat Boston in the regular season, and then we turned around and beat them in the playoffs. We were able to beat Indiana and play with Indiana during the regular season. I hope that translates over. So give me the Knicks in 6. Knicks in 6. So, and I will really lose my mind when we go to the final. So,
oh my gosh, our group chat was really excited for you the other day. I can't imagine if they end up in the finals. It might just blow up.
It'll be pandemonium. Like I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
you saw the Garden, you saw New York City, and that was the semifinals.
Yeah.
Wait until they get to the finals. Knock on wood if they get there. But this is going to be the heck of a series. The ghosts are going to be out. Reggie Miller, Spike Lee. This is going to be, for me as a 90s kid, this is going to be a phenomenal series. So we're going to take a quick time out here. Can we calm down a little bit because I was getting a little ready to start exploding about my Knicks here. But I got three questions here. We're going to take a quick time out. We're going to look ahead. We're going to kind of prognosticate and kind of look ahead here with the off season. And we have some burning questions. And there's a ton of them out there for the NBA in the off season. And even in the off season, 3 from Deep will still be here. We're going to break down teams. We're going to break down divisions. We'll do some off-season stuff here on 3 from Deep, not going anywhere. But some big questions for you, burning questions. First one, Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's probably one of the main stories out there right now. Does he stay or does he go?
My initial feeling is he's going to go. I know that there's a report out there where he's supposed to meet with ownership and management of Milwaukee, I think Monday or Tuesday. I think that's him to formally request a trade. I think he doesn't see a way out, or at least the way that the Milwaukee Bucks can build around him, especially with Lillard being out with his Achilles injury. Unfortunately, I think Giannis is going to ask for a way out of Milwaukee.
And I see that too. He's given that city everything. He has been loyal the whole time. He doesn't want to leave there. But again, I think, excuse me, I think the Lillard factor plays a role into this because we saw how long Dame Lillard stayed in Portland, and he stayed too long. And now he's at the twilight of his career. And Giannis sees that, and he's like, dude, I don't want to be 37 and on a crappy team, and then I finally go somewhere else, and I'm at the end of my career. So, yes, I think Giannis requests a trade. Where he goes, man, that's
another.
I can see him. Excuse me. I can see him telling the Milwaukee Bucks with the kind of individual he is, kind of giving him his top maybe 3 or 4 teams that he wants to go to, but he's going to tell the Milwaukee Bucks, get whatever you can from me, because he's not kind of that guy. I don't think he's selfish to where I want to go here and that's all where I'll go. I don't see him doing that. I think he wants to put Milwaukee and he wants to leave and put them in a good position, getting some draft capital, maybe getting a couple of good players. I don't see him wanting to just burn the whole place down as he's walking out the door. So,
this is my only pushback with that is the NBA is a business. I mean, we can be, hold hands and sing Kumbaya later, but that didn't help Luka when he got traded from Dallas. And not to say that's equivalent, but my point being is, Giannis has done everything he can for Milwaukee. He literally won them a championship. He stuck around for 10 seasons. So to then say, oh yeah, put me in the best spot, you think you can get the best package, that doesn't sound like a Giannis thing, because if that's the case, Charlotte has the most assets technically, or the Pelicans do in some sense. But I don't think any of those teams would be like a championship caliber team. You add Giannis to it. But, Giannis could walk in and say, hey, here's my 4 teams. I want Houston, Golden State. Maybe he throws in there Boston or LA Clippers, because LA Clippers might actually be able to throw like a James Harden in the deal and maybe some other assets. And maybe that all happens. But I think Giannis will have a list of like, hey, this is where I want to go get the best package. And that's where Milwaukee's management, they're going to have to finesse to get extra draft picks. But that's not on Giannis to like say, oh yeah, I'll take a crappy situation just because you guys put yourselves in a pickle where you don't have any future assets because you got Dame Lillard past his prime and overpaid for a head coach. That's not on Giannis. That's on Milwaukee.
Right. There's definitely some good teams out there, I think, that can make a play for him. But you look at Oklahoma City Thunder, they have a ton of draft capital. You look at the San Antonio Spurs, who have draft capital and some good young players. And the Dallas Mavericks just won the first overall pick in the NBA lottery, which wasn't, there's no conspiracy there. They just happened to win the lottery at 1.8% chance.
You don't think there's a conspiracy, Jason? You
Oh
don't?
no,
think so.
no, because Patrick Ewing didn't just happen to fall to the Knicks either. But anyway, but I could see maybe Dallas. Look, Cooper Flag, Giannis Antetokounmpo, top 5 player in the world. Cooper Flag has potential, but Dallas is actually tooled to win now. They are not a future team. They got an older AD. They're going to try to sign Kyrie Irving, who is just coming off, his ACL injury. You got some older guys. So, win now mode. You throw Giannis with Kyrie and AD. It's a heck of a top 3. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll talk about that in offseason here. So, second question. Boston Celtics. Tough loss to the New York Knicks. The worst, besides the loss, is losing your number 1, Jason Tatum, to the blown Achilles, because that's going to put him out. He's going to miss all of next year. So that's going to put him in, where are we here? 26. That's going to be 2027. So now Boston, you have Jaylen Brown, who is making $300 million a year. You have Porzingis, who, again, availability-wise, man, he's just not there. He's a broken unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, former Nick, also questionable availability. So yeah,
exactly. Peyton Pritchard, 6th man of the year, which is phenomenal. So you have some players, but do the Boston Celtics now, to get ready for next year, do they go out and kind of blow things up? Do they try to make some trades? What do the Boston Celtics do now to kind of get back into championship form before their field general comes back?
I think their payroll is going to hold them back from being a playoff team. They've got Drew Holiday, you got Al Horford, you got Devin White, you've got Jaylen Brown. You just said making $300 million. Those other players combined, and then I think Jason Tatum, who I just mentioned, who's out injured now, he's also making like $300+ million. So they got 2 guys on the payroll that are making $300+ million in salary. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, Boston's payroll is supposed to be somewhere in like the 300 to 400 million range per season, just because of all of like the inflated like per year contracts. So that's a lot. And imagine the luxury tax on that. Imagine the second apron that they're not going to be able to uphold because they got all these heavy contracts, and you go an extra year without Jason Tatum, you're a year older. Like Drew Holiday's on his last leg. Al Horford's on his last leg. Devin White, he's got a little, or Derek White, excuse me. He's got a little bit more in the tank, but you still have Pritchard, who you can build around. Jaylen Brown, the way that he looked against the Knicks, where he still looked like he's a number 1 option at least, maybe you can tie a trade package around that and go out and get somebody. If not, something I think the Boston Celtics should entertain if they want to stay competitive for a season or 2. Call up the Phoenix Suns, see what's the price for Kevin Durant. We'll give you Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Al Horford. We'll throw Pritchard in on the deal because he's 6th man of the year. Phoenix may want a young contract, but also the remaining contracts.
You would get rid of Pritchard, your youth. You would get rid of him to go out and get an old Kevin Durant.
Well, old Kevin Durant is still very lethal. Can we agree, though, that Kevin Durant is an upgrade between like Derek White, Drew Holiday's defense, no doubt, but you get Kevin Durant, you get Jaylen Brown, and then you can build around that, save yourself some money. Then Jason Tatum comes back in next year, and now you have a 3-headed horse that all fits around in terms of spacing. I think it's something to talk about. I don't know how much of Phoenix asking price it is, but I think it's worth a try. Even if you don't want to do Pritchard, because again, Pritchard's not a guy you're going to build a franchise around. I'm just saying he just won 6th man of the year. That might get you something. Like you might be able to get a pretty good return on that. But I think if I'm Boston and you don't want to completely blow it up, or maybe you want to just at least keep Jaylen Brown and you got to get rid of the other pieces, see if KD is willing to come to Boston for a season or 2, still remain competitive in the East, because we just talked about it's not as competitive as the West. So that way you're still able to compete in the playoffs, and see if the Celtics can still stay relevant and get some draft capital for the following few seasons for what you guys have. I think with Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and again, Porzingis, even because they won that championship last season, they'll have a name given to them on their new respective roster because they got that experience. I think that's something Boston should entertain if they're not going to blow everything up, because my only other option would be what can I get for Jaylen Brown? Because
Right.
he has the most value attached to him right now. Even if you did think about getting rid of Tatum, Brown has the most value in his name right now. So that technically that package would be better, but I think you'd get more value back if you had a KD on your team.
Right.
I know you're not in love with KD. I get it,
I'm
but
not a
I'm just
huge. I mean, especially I don't want to see. I mean, I don't care. Boston, you can do whatever you do. You're the Boston Celtics. I want to see you flounder for the next whatever years, anyways. But to me, overpaying for a Kevin Durant. Now, I can see if you put a trade package together and went out and got Giannis. You went out and got somebody
the
of
only reason
quality
why I didn't say
and
Giannis
younger.
is because I don't know if Milwaukee will do business with Boston. That's my only thing. I think there's only one team in the East. I think Milwaukee would be willing to do business with and be the Miami Heat. But there's not a whole lot of teams in the East that Milwaukee would just happily say, sure, take our number one guy so we see you 40% of the season. That's why I don't think Boston would be able to get.
The Dallas did that with Luka, so it's not like the Dallas went and goes, I don't want to
That's
trade
Nico
Luka to the
Harrison.
Lakers.
That's Nico Harrison. Don't lump that all in the same thing. No one's as
But
crazy
it's
as Nico
still
Harrison.
the GM stake. They all kind of had that same theory. Look, they're going to take the best deal. Boston definitely does need to do something. Their payroll is out of control. Next year is going to be kind of a throwaway season. So if I were them, I would stack up and get some draft capital, get rid of some of those contracts if you can get out from underneath of them. So this way, the following year, when Tatum finally does come back, you can retool, get some other free agents in there. But yeah, Boston definitely needs to do something. But you already talked about it, and the last question is where does Kevin Durant go? Where should Kevin Durant end his career? Because this is getting close to the very end. I know he can still get to 30, but he's already shown that he needs other players around him to win. So do you think he stays in the West or does he go East?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think the market's bigger for him if he were to go East because I am of the belief that most teams in their conference don't want to trade within conference. They prefer to go outside to the neighboring conference, in my opinion.
Right.
Now, don't tell me Luka just because it's Nico Harrison. Like the fact that he gave Luka away for a pack of gum is also kind of crazy. But I think, look, if I'm Kevin Durant, I think Boston is on my list. I still think that there's a world where KD fits on the Knicks really well, especially like when it comes to having a secondary scorer. And I know that you're not in love with KD, but I see a world where it all kind of works. The only other couple of teams in the West I would see would be the Timberwolves. I see KD fitting really well with Anthony Edwards. And I would even argue maybe my LA Lakers would maybe see what the asking price is from the Phoenix Suns about KD. Because again, KD's in the last few years. LeBron's going to want to get a championship immediately. Luka could really use a guy like KD who can swing the ball to. And again, KD would be in a perfect situation. He's not asked to be the number one guy, but he could be the go-to scorer and just deflect to LeBron to lead the team, reflect to Luka to be the guy. Like KD serves great on a team when he's not the number one guy. That's why he's a two-time champion from the Warriors, because he was Kevin Durant, but he wasn't asked to be the leader of the Warriors. That was Stephen Curry's job,
Yep. The biggest team that I could see to bring his career to a full circle would be Kevin Durant going back to the Oklahoma City Thunder. You put Kevin Durant out there with SGA, because again, Oklahoma City Thunder, they probably have one of the best front offices in the league. They have a ton of draft capital. They know how to move players around. They see value, and they have some great young talent. So I can see them putting a nice package together. And I can see Kevin Durant going home to Oklahoma City and finish it where it all started. So that's just my theory because, if Oklahoma City wins the championship this year, a la the whole Golden State thing that happened the last time, things kind of come together a little bit. When they lost, Oklahoma City lost in Game 7 to Golden State. They went on to win a championship, and the next year, Kevin Durant joins. So if Oklahoma City goes on and wins the championship, and then Kevin Durant joins them, I can see that happen. And I'm throwing it out there. So, but time, man, we're gonna jump back in here and let's talk about that West, man. What a gauntlet!
Yeah, Jason,
And-
let's talk about the West.
Come on,
Let's
I'm
talk
waiting
about
for
the
it.
West. I don't know, Jason, if you remember this or not. And I think I even said this on your show the last time you had me, or even on my show when we talked about this.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Can you remind who did you have winning the series with the Nuggets and the Thunder? Can you just remind the folks?
Well, just you know, some days when I talk, I don't. The brain doesn't like match what the mouth says. So a lot of times I just kind of have, you know, everybody glitches every once in a while. So I had a little bit of a glitch, but yes, I had the Denver Nuggets. I picked them. I picked Nikola Jokic. You were correct. I was incorrect.
And I said that I think this is going to answer the MVP race, because I bet you, ironically, tomorrow morning, all of a sudden the MVP award's going to be given out. And I think to SGA.
Yep.
And you even texted me this today because we were confirming that I was obviously going to do the show with you and stuff. You're like, all right, I'll see you tonight. Nuggets in 7. And then the Nuggets lost. And you're like, I can't believe they blew. And I go, told you, Thunder.
They were right there too. And just, well, look, I'm going to give props to Gordon.
Yeah.
Grade 2 hamstring. And you go out there and grab 11 rebounds, dude. Just props to you. But they were playing from behind. Nikola Jokic just did not have enough in him. He ran out of gas, and Jalen Williams showed up. SGA is a monster. And I tell you what, Alex Caruso, you talk about an unsung hero, bodying up Nikola Jokic, watching them play against each other. Nikola Jokic is up here, Caruso's down here, and he's just he's like a gnat, and he just screwed him up and just put him off his game. So hell of a win from Oklahoma City, the number 1 team in the league this year, makes it to the Western Conference Finals against that number 6 team, who I told you was dangerous the minute. That at least got the Timberwolves.
You did get, you called that.
Much this year, especially in the West, because I had the Rockets too, but we saw how that ended. But the T-Wolves against Oklahoma City, man, this is a heck of a battle. Oklahoma City making the Western Conference Finals the first time since we talked about it, 2015-16, when they lost to those Golden State Warriors in 7 games. But the big question is, does Oklahoma City need to make the NBA Finals to consider this a successful season?
Yes, 100%. The Thunder have had the most hype around them regarding, you know, a team that's poised to win the championship. They had the highest win amount this season, only lost 14 games the whole year. And even in these playoffs, yes, they've lost 3 games to the Nuggets, but we're running the playoff table basically from jump.
Right.
If they don't make the finals to even represent the West, it's a failed year. Like, point blank, you don't go 68 wins. You don't have SGA have statistically his best season to where this is his strongest case to be named the MVP. You don't have Jalen Williams take the step that he did, being a 2-way player. You don't have Chet Holmgren coming back from injury. You don't have all this kind of coming together at the right time. Beating the former NBA champions of 2 seasons ago by almost 40. And not only that, but you have the toughness to back it up. You don't make the finals, doesn't matter any of that. It's all forgotten. No one's going to remember any of this because it was a failed year. So yes, in my opinion, the Thunder definitely need to win this series to represent the West in the finals to be success. If not, it's all failure.
And I can agree with that too. There's just too many things that they've done this year to show that they're an elite team. And as an elite team, you can't get beat by a 6 seed in the Western Conference Finals. I don't care who it is. I mean, I know it's the T-Wolves, it's Ant Edwards. I know they got a great squad, but excuse me, they're a 6 seed. You cannot lose to them. This is super important to that team and to that franchise that has been starving to get to the finals. So this is going to be interesting, and this is a lot of pressure. So the Nuggets, with an injured Gordon, kind of a depleted team, They had Joker, they had Brown. Westbrook was kind of hit or miss, so they didn't have much on that. Excuse me. Excuse me. They didn't have much on that squad besides Joker, and they took him to 7 games. So Oklahoma City is going to really need to show something here to justify being a 1 seed, the best team in the National Basketball Association. You have essentially the MVP on your squad. This is going to be a big series. So T-Wolves, 6 seed, making noise. Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, MVP of the last series, man. Where did he I wish the Knicks would have had him last year. We got a different Julius Randle. It's not the same guy. What do the Timberwolves need to do to slow down this Oklahoma City Thunder team?
The same thing they've done in round 1 with the Lakers, the same thing they did in Golden State. Playing bully ball, just absolutely being extremely physical, because what happens is the Timberwolves live in comfortability of being physical. Like, that's their bread and butter. They love being able to put a hand on you. They love being able to put a forearm on you because it gets you out of your game. And then what happens is you overcommit. You can't focus on defense. And that's where Anthony Edwards, he can shoot it from 3. He can take you to the hole. Julius Randle, just being able to punish you down low, and he can shoot from outside as well. So the Timberwolves being that versatile that they can go physically, but they can also shoot with finesse. But I think the one thing that Oklahoma City is going to struggle with, and I saw this with the Nuggets a little bit, is the Nuggets at points when they're healthy, they have no problem playing physical as well. Because Jamal Murray, say what you want about him, shooting from outside, he can also put it on the floor, and he has no problem creating contact to get that shot up. I would say Shea is the only player that's comfortable with contact and finishing after contact. Jalen Williams is getting better. Like, he's a good defender, but I would say if you get a physical body into him, he's pretty much neutralized. That's the thing about the Timberwolves, though, and kind of the rest thing that you talked about in the East with the Pacers. Timberwolves have been on a similar, if not a longer rest period than the Thunder, who just got out of the 7th game right now. And I think game 1 is going to start on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a pretty quick turnaround. So I'm concerned for the Timberwolves as they need to play physically, but this is where the foul trouble comes in. They play too physically. They're not going to get the calls because they're not at home. They're in Oklahoma. And I think this is where we might see somewhat of a blowout in game 1. But I think the Timberwolves, as the series goes on, you putting hands on the Thunder, I think it's going to wear them down, very similar to what the Knicks are. The Knicks are a physical team that are going to have to just break down the Pacers as the series goes. I think the Timberwolves are going to have to do the same thing in this series.
Right. And to me, this is going to be, again, one of those around the basket type series where you're going to have Chet on one side, and now you got the Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert on the other side. So they do have some length down there near the basket. Look, Edwards is going to create his shot, and he's going to get his. SGA is going to get his shot and get his. And we'll talk about those two guys here. But it's the other players around him. It's the role players. It's who's going to get the most rebounds. I think that's going to be key in this game. Offensive rebounds, second chance points. I think that's going to be huge, especially for the Timberwolves to try to beat Oklahoma City, because Oklahoma City gets a lot of second chance points. And Timberwolves are going to have to combat that. So this is going to be a huge battle for two awesome teams and 2 megastars. And that comes into my next question, because we're going to have a face-off here. This whole face of the NBA. Now you have 4 guys. You have 4 top-tier stars and young stars. So Stephen Curry is sitting at home. LeBron James is sitting at home. Kevin Durant never even got out the car. Jason Tatum got hurt. So all your older mega stars are kind of, Giannis is out of the picture now. So all your older mega stars are out of the picture. Now you have 4 young guys with Halliburton, Brunson, Edwards, and SGA. So now you have SGA versus Anthony Edwards. Does one or the other need to prove that they're the face of the league in this series? Or is it just, hey, I need to win the series and I don't care how I play as long as my team wins?
I think It is definitely not focused around being the face of the league. I don't think, and here's why. I think, and that's important in my opinion. And I think the reason why is because I think the focus for both players would be, I need to do what I can for my team to win.
Right.
But I say that this, like, if you're asking me, like, which one is going to care more about the MVP than the series itself, like, I think that's a little bit of a hard question to ask. But what I would answer is, I think Anthony Edwards is a player that wants this series more, not because he wants to be, the face of the league, because he's already said he has no interest in that. I think it's because you got a guy that's probably the MVP of the league going to come into his building, or he's going to go against. And Anthony Edwards is kind of like that old school NBA mentality where he does not like anybody he plays against. He's got kind of Jordan-esque attitude where he takes it personally when you think that you can guard him. A very much like a Kobe-centric mindset where he's just going to beat you. Like, no doubt, he will die on that court before he lets you get the best of him. And I think in that respect, with that attitude, I think Anthony Edwards is going to kick it up a notch to where he's not going to be saying and advertising, I'm the face of the league, but his game will. Like him on the court, him shooting, him handling the basketball, that in this series will demonstrate that he's going to basically be a guy on a mission to prove that you guys have been overlooking who the best player in the NBA is, and that's me. And I think that's what Anthony Edwards will do in this series. And I think because of that attitude of, like, I don't want to be the face of the league, I don't care about the MVP, I just want to beat the very best. I think that attitude, if he defeats Shea in the series and gets into the NBA Finals, I think that puts Anthony Edwards as the face of the league, because he doesn't even care if that is the situation or not. He just wants to beat the very best. And honestly, what Anthony Edwards has done in his playoff career, he's been beating legends and collecting them like Infinity Stones in the Avengers. So the fact that, like, Shea is just another Infinity Stone that he's got to go against, I think this series will show that Anthony Edwards, one, is probably the face of the league, and two, maybe he's truly the guy that is poised for MVP runs because of what he brings to the Timberwolves.
Right. I don't believe Anthony Edwards when he says he doesn't want to be the face of the league. I don't believe really any of these guys, because they say that, but when, the TV commercial, opportunities come around, when the new shoe deals come around,
well, no one's going to turn down a paycheck. I mean,
but that comes with that face of the league. Like, you don't get those opportunities if you're a scrub or if you don't want to do it. It's not like he's turning that stuff down. So to me, saying that is a bunch of bull. You don't say, hey, I'm watching Michael Jordan videos and I want to do blackout and I want to score and I want to be the man. You can't say that and not want to the league to recognize you and promote you and go, I don't care about any of that stuff. Yes, you do. Because if the cameras were off, you would say, like, wait a minute, I'm winning. Why are you guys leaving? Why am I not getting shoe deals? Why am I not getting, television commercials? So I don't believe any of that stuff. He's trying to be humble, which I appreciate. But look, I mean, when it's all said and done, these guys have, their attitude, their ego needs to be inflated, because when you're cheered by millions of people, you're going to have that kind of ego. So for him to say that, I don't believe it. And this is going to be a phenomenal series just because all eyes are going to be on these two guys. You have two of the very best. I mean, SGA top 5 in the league. Ant Edwards maybe knocking on the door. I mean, maybe he's 6 or 7 and he flops in and out depending on how this series goes. I don't know your thoughts. We'll talk about that at a later date with top 5 in the actual league right now. But this is going to be a huge matchup. And I still think both of these guys want to perform well. They don't just want to win. They want to win plus. They want to win. They want to get the MVPs. They want the hardware that the greats before them that they are being compared to have. and that will solidify who they are and kind of, reaffirm that, okay, they are great players. Hey, look, I have a finals MVP now. Hey, look, I did the same thing Jordan did, or I did the same thing all these other guys did. So when they say they don't want to be the face, I don't believe that. They want the paycheck that comes along with it. It's not, you can't have one without the other. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
But the big question going through the West, the gauntlet that it is, we have two superstars, megastars in the league right now facing off against each other. Who wins this series?
Wow. It's that time to make a decision, I guess. Listen, I know I said Thunder in 7 against the Nuggets, and what I saw the Thunder do to the Nuggets, a former NBA champion, was impressive. Granted, was the Nuggets fully healthy? No, but in this stage of the playoffs, you roll with your best, and the Thunder took out what the Nuggets had at the moment, and they took care of business respectfully. I will say, though, it's going to go 7 games in my opinion, but I think I'm going to side with the Timberwolves on this one. I think they're going to go in 7. I think this is going to set us up for a Timberwolves and Knicks NBA Finals, where, of course, as you guys ended up with Cat, it's because of the deal that sent Julius Randle over to Minnesota. Listen, I think if anything in these playoffs has taught us anything, it's teams that can play physical, win in the mid-range game, are what is moving on.
Right.
And the Minnesota Timberwolves are not the greatest three-point shooting team in these playoffs. I would argue that was the Boston Celtics. They got eliminated. But they're a physical team that knows how to get into the mid-range game. They can shoot threes, but they score when they need to score. They don't fall in love with the three and die, because even with my Lakers, they were essentially like, we'll shoot from 3. Okay, you take the 3, that's fine. I can go to the rack, or I can pull up from here. Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, they did us like that. And I know like Naz Reid was also a very good mid-range shooter as well. So he took over as well. The Thunder, though, they're so young. I'm just not sure if they can handle the physicality. This will be a big test because, again, I'm making a lot of assumptions that the Thunder just maybe are too young and inexperienced for the strength that Minnesota is going to have. But I just feel like with the run that Minnesota has been on, they've gotten hot at just the right time, playing physical, being able to really eliminate the Lakers and Golden State swiftly and as aggressively as they've been. I just feel like that they're going to come in here with this attitude, this physicality, very similar to what the Knicks have been doing in their playoff run as well. And I think that is going to bode well for them. And I think they're going to move on, because the Thunder, to me, are like a very analytical finesse kind of a team. And I don't know if that is the most if that is successful against a team that is physical, that can also beat you in the mid-range and shoot threes. Because, again, like my point was in the East, the Knicks are used to it. The Timberwolves are used to it as well. I don't know if the Thunder are, which is what I'm concerned with the Thunder. So give me the Timberwolves in 7 is what I'll say.
Wow. Timberwolves in 7. My man Cody's going with the Wolves. Wolves, Knicks, trade partners. Interesting.
Very interesting.
The last series gives me pause on the Timberwolves. Phenomenal series. Again, Julius Randle, the MVP of that series, and that's what concerns me. Because Anthony Edwards, if he wants to be on the SGA level, MVP, number 1 team in the league, if you want to be on that level, you need to be the MVP of every series. And he wasn't that last series. He kind of showed up in a couple of games, but he wasn't the 40-point, 30-plus point guy. I think he averaged 26 points a game in that series, which is respectable, but it's not enough to get it done against SGA and that Oklahoma City Thunder. Look, the Oklahoma City Thunder, yes, Nikola Jokic and that team stretched out to 7 games, but you're playing against the best basketball player in the world. And that was a tough series because the West is a gauntlet and it is tough. Minnesota Timberwolves are a 6 seed for a reason. I just don't see them having enough firepower to get past the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think the Thunder take it in 6. I cannot see Anthony Edwards outplaying SGA. I think SGA right now is the best NBA player in these playoffs right now. He has been the most consistent. He is going to be an even bigger star getting into the finals than he is right now. So I got Oklahoma City in 6 games. I just don't see the Timberwolves. Julius Randle, he had a phenomenal series last year, but again, he tends to fall off. When's he going to fall off? Anthony Edwards. You're going to have to score 35, 40 points a game to be able to compete with these Oklahoma City Thunders. And I have not seen one of those games yet from him in these playoffs. He hadn't had a blackout game yet. So I see Oklahoma City in 6 going against my New York Knicks. That's my excuse me. That's my finals.
That'll be an entertaining one. I think we're both agreeing that the Knicks get in there, and if they don't, I mean, you might need to take a sabbatical. I know you said you're going to do 3 from deep, but you might not be game time ready if you're heartbroken like that. So
no, I'm always ready, baby. Sick, tired, cold, hungry, whatever. I'm always here. I don't like to miss. I don't like to miss games. I don't like to miss shows, man. It drives me nuts. Even coughing and wheezing here still. But I tell you what, man, this has been a hell of a playoff so far. Tons of drama, tons of excitement. We've had buzzer beaters. We've had major injuries. We have 4 kind of new teams that are bubbling up. Timberwolves have never won. Oklahoma City, as they are now, they won when they were the Sonics back in the days, but right now it's Oklahoma City. They never. Knicks haven't won in 50 years. Pacers haven't won. So you got 4 new teams here, and I think that's going to bring a whole nother level of excitement as we don't have any of those other old dogs in there. You got all new guys. So this is going to be fresh. This is going to be exciting. You have 4 stud stars with Brunson and Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, SGA. So the stage is set. This is going to be a very exciting couple of series, and I think they're going to be super entertaining, and you're going to hear probably from both of us here. So Cody, man, I appreciate you being on here. Excuse me. See, I can't even talk. Losing my voice. But I'll see if I'm right this time. I was wrong the last time. You got me on the Nuggets. Joker, you broke my heart, but it was a tall task. Especially with Gordon
Did you pick the Joker to win MVP as well?
I believe I did too. Yes. Yeah, so
that's a bummer. And I think I picked
that one too.
I think I picked Shea to win MVP. Actually, I would be honest. We were texting about this in our Boom group chat that I actually think that the series that we just had with the Nuggets and the Thunder is actually good for Jalen Brunson, because I think it really puts Jalen Brunson as like maybe he's MVP, because he got his team to the Eastern Conference Finals first time in 25 years. And not only that, he's an undersized guard. Literally, when the Knicks didn't have him because of his ankle injury, like it was like the third quarter of the regular season. They just kind of fell off. And when he came back, they elevated their play. And Jalen Brunson throughout all the playoffs has been playing like an MVP caliber. So my argument it's probably going to be Shea in my opinion. But I think Jalen Brunson, in my opinion, is probably like a second place runner up, because he's actually also in the Eastern Conference Finals. Shea's in the Western Conference Finals. But Jalen Brunson, legitimately, if he's not on the Knicks, are they even a playoff team? I think is a question, because he's literally the engine that makes the Knicks move. So, if that makes you feel any better. But I also told you so on Shea, and I told you so on the Thunder.
No,
so
I got it. I'll eat that. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. I'll eat that. Yeah. I think that these playoffs definitely did bring a lot of light to Jalen Brunson. I think he may be 3rd or 4th in the voting. Again, it's SGA, Joker, and then maybe Brunson, maybe Giannis for willing that crappy Bucks team in there. But I think this bodes well to next year, because if the Knicks make the finals, man, if they win, with Jalen Brunson, that puts him on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And then next year, he's going to be one of the top vote getters because they saw what he did. So now eyes are going to be on him. And I think that's going to help him. So what he did in these playoffs is going to definitely help him next year in the MVP voting. But yeah, I think it's Shea all day. He's had a phenomenal series, but he had a great regular season. It's hard to beat that. So, but Cody, man, I can't thank you enough for being on here. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, guys. So all you have to do is subscribe to Drew Code Sports Talk is the name on YouTube. It's here on this platform. So after you subscribe to the Boom Broadcast channel, go over to Drew Code Sports Talk, do the same. And then also, search up Drew Code Sports Talk. You'll find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, pretty much whatever is social media, Drew Code is on there. So that's where you can find us.
Awesome. I appreciate you being on, man. I'll see you soon. And man, it's been a heck of a playoff so far. And it's not over yet. So Thank you very much, brother. I'll chat you here later on.
See you, brother.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here. Again, I'm Jason Colenso. This has been 3 from Deep. Thank you so much for joining me. These playoffs have been off the chain. I love it. Very 90s-esque. Here we go. Knicks, Pacers, T-Wolves, Thunder. Man, Final Four. Who you got? Drop me a comment. I want to know who you guys have. So like and subscribe, and I will see you on Wednesday. Peace.